Hey, what is going on Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. In my last video I looked at my 5 favourite legendary locations in the main series Pokemon games, and those locations were chosen not for the legendary but the surrounding area and lasting impression those locations gave me. However, this video is the complete opposite, as I will be looking at my top 10 favourite legendary Pokemon. Now remember, this is my list, so don't be upset if your favourite legendary isn't in the video. I could have easily chosen 10 more Pokemon, and to be honest, this list changes every day, so most likely I do like your favourite legendary, it's just some didn't quite make the list. Also, I will be including mythical Pokemon in this list, as they are a subcategory of legendary Pokemon and not separate. So question of the day to you guys, what is your favourite legendary Pokemon? Let me know in the comments below, and with all that out the way, let's start the video. Starting off our list is possibly one of the cutest legendary Pokemon out there, and one that left a big impact on me. This is the seafaring Pokemon Manaphy. My first exposure to Manaphy was in the 9th Pokemon movie, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. This was the final movie for the Advanced Generation, which was my favourite series of the Pokemon anime, and this film was the end of an era for me. I'd grown up watching the original anime, but this series was the first time I was playing alongside the anime with the games, so I had a lot of affection for this series. And I think that's why I like Manaphy so much. As a Pokemon, it wasn't anything special, and its signature move Heart Swap was pretty disappointing, but when I think of legendary Pokemon, it's always one that springs to mind. Manaphy definitely has its movie to thank for me liking it so much, especially the ending where May and Manaphy say their goodbyes and go their separate ways. It was very symbolic to the Advanced series, as Ash, May, Max and Brock would also soon be separating, and so for me, it was a fitting end to the series, all thanks to Manaphy. Following Manaphy is a Pokemon that has definitely grown on me over the years, especially since I've never even owned one. This is the deep black Pokemon Zekrom. Now I might not be the biggest fan of Generation 5, but I remember how excited I was when I saw the main legendaries, Reshiram and Zekrom revealed. Normally I favour one of the box art legendaries over another, but I couldn't choose between the two at the time. Zekrom has a very cool design and looks like a Pokemon you wouldn't want to mess with. Apart from its design, Zekrom has some very good stats and 2 very cool signature moves, in the form of Bolt Strike and Fusion Bolt. However, although Zekrom has a great design, stats and move pool, there is a certain legendary that outshines it. As you guys could have guessed, Reshiram is my favourite of the two, as I had Pokemon Black and not Pokemon White. However, even if I had Pokemon White, I probably would still prefer Reshiram over Zekrom, as for me, it has the better design of the two. And although these two Pokemon are pretty much identical with their stats and signature moves, I prefer Reshiram's Dragon and Fire typing over Zekrom's Dragon and Electric typing, as Reshiram has less weaknesses. Also, from a personal note, when Pokemon Black and White had just come out, there were lots of paper sky lanterns flying about the UK. I don't know why exactly, but they were the in thing at the moment, and you see them quite often. But anyway, back on topic, the reason I bring that up is because from a distance the flame looked like Reshiram was travelling through the sky at high speeds, which I thought at the time was really cool. So yeah, for me, Reshiram beats Zekrom in every department, but do remember, I did play Pokemon Black and not White, so of course there's going to be a bit of bias. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer out of Reshiram and Zekrom. Now coming in at number 7 is a Pokemon I worked my butt off to get, and in the end, I never even used it. The Pokemon in question is Raikou, and when Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire had just come out, the only way to obtain one was to trade from Pokemon Colosseum. So luckily for me, my friend had a copy of Pokemon Colosseum and was willing to trade me one at a price. This, unfortunately for me, was a level 100 Wailord, and if you don't know, is one of the hardest Pokemon to train to level 100, since it requires so many experience points. But after a month of solid grinding, I got a level 100 Wailord, and eventually obtained a Raikou. Funny thing is, I have no recollection of ever using it. As for Raikou itself, I personally prefer it over the other legendary beasts. Even though I think they're all great Pokemon, Raikou just so happens to be my favourite due to its design, and also its appearance in the Pokemon Chronicles series. Following on from Raikou is yet another electric type legendary. This is the appropriately named electric Pokemon Zapdos. Now when I look at Zapdos' design, stats, move pool and abilities, nothing really stands out to me as to why I like this Pokemon so much. I think Zapdos is just a Pokemon I've liked since I was a kid, and before long I'd forgotten why I'd ever liked it in the first place. The only reason I can think of is I owned a VHS copy of the second Pokemon film, The Power of One, and used to watch this film all the time, and I guess Zapdos was my favourite of the legendary bird trio. Plus the idea of seeing Zapdos flying through a dark, stormy sky always seemed cool to me, so when I was little, whenever we had a thunderstorm, I like to think it was Zapdos' doing. So out of all the legendaries on this list, I do have to say Zapdos is definitely the hardest to explain as to why I like it, since I can only vaguely remember, but nevertheless it's a Pokemon I remember fondly. Coming in at the halfway point is the groundbreaking gratitude Pokemon Shaymin. Now Shaymin is a very special legendary Pokemon, as it was the first legendary that could change its typing by changing from its land form, which was grass type, to its sky form, which was grass flying type. I mean, sure, Deoxys might have been the first legendary Pokemon to have been able to change its forms, but it can never change its type. What's great about Shaymin is that it has two fantastic forms, and I honestly can't decide which one I prefer. Its land form is a little cute hedgehog which you just want to cuddle, and its sky form looks incredibly powerful and incredibly cool, and I just like them both equally. Now another reason why I love Shaymin is the location you find it at, which is called Flower Paradise. Flower Paradise is an event-only location in the Sinnoh region, and it's so memorable to me as it takes an absolute age to bike there through Seabreak Path, but it's definitely worth it to get this amazing Pokemon. Following on from Shaymin is yet another legendary Sinnoh Pokemon, Arceus. In terms of the Pokemon lore, Arceus is one of the most important Pokemon out there, if not the most important Pokemon of all time, as it is said to have created the entire Pokemon universe. I personally love Arceus' design as it looks very, very powerful, yet on the other hand looks very majestic as we would expect from a godlike Pokemon. Also, its battle music is so fitting for it as it gives off this intimidating, omnipotent vibe. Now the problem with Arceus is that it never got an official event release in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which still doesn't make any sense as they created an event for it in-game. So many fans unfortunately couldn't obtain it, and I think that's why I love it so much, as it was one of those rare Pokemon you couldn't obtain, and when I activated the in-game event with an action replay and finally caught one, it made the experience all the more amazing. Hopefully in the future, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, it'll receive an official in-game event because it definitely deserves one. Yet another Sinnoh Pokemon. You can probably tell I love this region, but alas, this is my final legendary Sinnoh Pokemon in this video. This is the temporal Pokemon Dialga. So, as you can probably tell with Dialga being on this list, I own Pokemon Diamond. However, even if I had bought Pokemon Pearl over Pokemon Diamond, I think Dialga would have still made this list. And this is because Dialga didn't make much of an impact to me in the main series games at first, as I just boxed it in my PC after catching it. I thought it had an amazing design and a very unique typing, but I just didn't want to use it. So what changed my mind? Well, fast forward a year later and we had Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time and Darkness, which showed Dialga in a different light, or more accurately, a different form. Primal Dialga was one of the main antagonists of the game and is still to this day one of my favourite bosses of all time. It also has the best music in any game hands down. So yeah, after beating that game, I had a newfound respect for Dialga and is now one of my favourite legendaries of all time. Taking the number 2 spot is easily a Pokemon that could have come first on my list, as I like it almost as much as the final Pokemon. Now this legendary Pokemon is the Sky High Pokemon Rayquaza. This won't be a surprise to many seeing it so high up on this list, as it has to be one of the most popular Pokemon of all time, even if we're not talking about legendaries. As to why I like it so much, well, for one, it has one of the best designs in Pokemon's 21-year-long history and looks super intimidating in the process, which is what a legendary should do. Also, just the effort it took to catch Rayquaza back in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire made this Pokemon all the more special. Not only is its location Sky Pillar really hidden, but it's also tough to traverse as you have to seamlessly cross the cracked floors. And then when you finally reach Rayquaza at the top, you'll find yourself depleting all of your Ultra Balls, as this thing does not want to be caught. So back then, if you did have a Rayquaza, it was a sign of being a very good trainer. The only complaint I can have about this Pokemon is its Mega Evolution. Although the majority of people liked it, I think Rayquaza's design was too good to mess with, and unfortunately it doesn't look as good as its original form. Still, take nothing away from Rayquaza, definitely one of the best legendary Pokemon out there, and definitely just one of the best Pokemon of all time. So taking the number 1 spot on this list is a Pokemon that I have loved for a very, very long time. This is the diving Pokemon Lugia. And what's not to like about Lugia? It has a superb design, move pool, controversial typing, and one hell of a movie. So if we quickly cast our minds back 5 minutes ago when I was talking about Zapdos, you guys will remember how I used to watch the second Pokemon movie a lot. And one of these reasons was because of Lugia. It was just an incredible Pokemon to behold and was so incredibly powerful. Also, the fact that it had a damn smooth voice in the movie made me love it even more. Now as far as the games go, I don't really remember using Lugia that much, if at all. I had Soul Silver because by then I already loved Lugia, but once I completed the story, I just placed it in my PC. So I'm assuming my love for Lugia stems from the second movie, which is one of my favourite Pokemon movies, and because of that, Lugia is one of my favourite Pokemon of all time. So guys, those are my 10 favourite legendary Pokemon. Like I said at the start, some of the earlier choices could have easily been swapped out for other Pokemon, so sorry if your favourite didn't make the cut. But anyway guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like down below. I would really appreciate the support, and if you want to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button down below as well. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you on the next video. Peace!